The lab results sat on the table between us. A single white envelope, unassuming, harmless, except it wasn't. It felt like a loaded gun, one that could either fire blanks or shatter everything we had ever known. I glanced up at my twin brother, Jason. He looked as tense as I felt, his hands clenched into fists on his lap. The air between us was thick, silent, heavy, suffocating. For as long as I could remember, we had been inseparable, identical in almost every way. Same brown eyes, same sharp jawline, same damn dimples that made people confuse us constantly. We had shared everything growing up, birthdays, clothes, secrets. We were twins. That wasn't up for debate. Until now. This all started as a joke. A stupid, harmless joke. 2 weeks ago, we had been at a friend's house, sitting around a pizza-stained coffee table, talking about those at-home DNA test kits. The conversation had been light, full of laughter, and a little bit of curiosity. You wouldn't believe how many people take these tests and find out crazy stuff, our friend Marcus had said, taking a sip of his beer. Like long-lost siblings, secret affairs, weird ancestry. I read this one story about a guy who found out he was switched at birth. We had all laughed at that. The kind of laugh that comes from a place of safety, because those things happen to other people. Then someone had turned to Jason and me. You two should take one. I bet your results will be identical. It had been a fun idea. Something to prove what we already knew. Why wouldn't they be identical? We were twins. So, we had ordered the kits, spit into tubes, and sent them off, expecting nothing but confirmation. That's all it was supposed to be. Just a joke. But now, sitting in Jason's apartment with that white envelope between us, it didn't feel funny anymore. Jason exhaled sharply, breaking the silence. You open it, he muttered. I hesitated. A weird feeling twisted in my gut, something I couldn't explain. My fingers hovered over the envelope. The paper felt too thin, too light for the weight it carried. This was ridiculous. We were overthinking it. It was just a test, just a bunch of numbers on a piece of paper that meant nothing. Right. I took a deep breath and tore it open. Inside, there were 2 neatly printed reports, one for me, one for Jason. I unfolded them carefully, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I skimmed the page, my eyes flicking over numbers and percentages. European ancestry. Some Irish. A little Scandinavian. Then I saw it. A single line that stopped my heart cold. Immediate family match. None detected. My breath caught in my throat. I scanned the words again, over and over, my brain refusing to understand. None detected? That wasn't possible. That was a mistake. That had to be a mistake. My hands were shaking as I turned to Jason, my vision blurring at the edges. He must have seen my face, because he snatched his own report from the envelope and began scanning it, his eyes darting across the text. Then he froze. I knew the moment he saw it too. His face drained of color. His hands clenched the paper so tightly I thought he might rip it in half. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Jason let out a hollow laugh. This has to be a mistake. I opened my mouth, but no words came out, because deep down I already knew. This wasn't a mistake. This was the beginning of a truth we were never meant to find out. Jason's laugh hung in the air, hollow and forced, like he was trying to convince himself this was all some kind of sick joke. This has to be a mistake, he repeated, but his voice wasn't steady anymore. He kept staring at the words on the paper like if he just looked at them hard enough, they'd change. Like the letters would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. But they didn't. And they wouldn't. My mouth felt dry as I finally found my voice. Maybe they mixed up our results? I said, my own words sounding distant, disconnected from reality. Jason latched onto that idea like a drowning man grasping for a lifeline. Yeah, he nodded quickly. That has to be it. They probably switched our files with someone else's. It sounded reasonable. Mistakes happened all the time. Labs processed thousands of these tests. What were the chances that ours had gotten screwed up? Jason pulled out his phone, his fingers flying across the screen. I'll call the company. I'll tell them they messed up our results, and they'll fix it. We'll get the real ones soon, and everything will be fine. He sounded so sure. So desperate. I wanted to believe him. I really, really did. But something in my gut told me this wasn't a mistake. There was something wrong. Something bigger than a clerical error. I looked back at my report, scanning every line, searching for something, anything that could explain this. And then I saw another section, another result that sent a chill down my spine. Siblings, none detected. My breath hitched. Not only did Jason and I not match as twins, but according to this, we weren't even brothers. My stomach twisted into a knot. Jason, I whispered, my voice barely audible. He didn't look up, still scrolling through the DNA test company's website, searching for a contact number, a customer service email, some kind of answer. I swallowed hard, gripping my paper so tightly my knuckles turned white. It's not just the twin thing. His head finally snapped up, his brow furrowed. What? I forced myself to say it. It says we're not related at all. Jason blinked, his expression blank, like he hadn't understood the words I had just spoken. Then, slowly, I watched the meaning sink in. His hands trembled as he looked down at his own report, flipping through it like he was desperate to prove me wrong. And then he found it. I knew the exact moment he saw the words, because all the color drained from his face. The phone slipped from his grip, landing on the table with a dull thud. For a long moment, he just sat there, staring at the paper, his breathing shallow. Then, without warning, he shoved his chair back so hard it nearly toppled over. No, he said, shaking his head violently. No, this is wrong. This is some glitch, some stupid error. But I could hear it in his voice. Even he didn't believe that anymore. I didn't know what to say. My mind was spinning, my heart pounding in my chest. If Jason and I weren't brothers, if we weren't even related, then what the hell were we? Jason suddenly turned to me, his eyes wild with something I couldn't quite place. Fear, anger, desperation, maybe all three. We need to talk to Mom and Dad, he said, his voice shaking. I hesitated. We had never needed to talk to our parents about anything like this before. They had always been solid, unshakable. Mom was the kindest woman I knew, the kind of person who made everyone feel at home. Dad was a man of few words, but he was steady, dependable, the kind of man you could always count on. They had always been honest with us, hadn't they? I swallowed hard, forcing myself to nod. Yeah, I said quietly. We do. Because if this wasn't a mistake, if these results were real, then the people who had raised us, who had loved us, had been keeping a secret. And I wasn't sure we were ready for the truth. Jason barely spoke the entire drive to our parents' house. He gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white, his jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might crack. Every now and then, he would glance over at me, his face a mess of emotions, anger, confusion, fear. I wasn't doing much better. The DNA results sat in my lap, folded neatly, as if keeping them pressed together might somehow hold our reality in place. It didn't. Nothing felt real anymore. Because if Jason and I weren't twins, if we weren't even brothers, then what did that mean? Did one of us belong to another family? Were we both adopted? Were we switched at birth? Or was there something even worse lurking beneath the surface? Neither of us had the answers. But we knew one thing for sure. Our parents did. The moment we pulled up in front of our childhood home, a wave of nausea rolled through me. It was the same house we had grown up in. The same front porch where we used to sit and watch thunderstorms roll in during the summer. The same windows where Mom would wave at us when we got home from school. Everything looked normal. And yet, nothing felt normal anymore. Jason turned off the engine but didn't move. You ready? I asked, though I wasn't even sure I was. Jason let out a long, shaky breath. No, neither was I. But we stepped out anyway. Mom answered the door, her face lighting up when she saw us. Oh, my boys, she said, pulling us both into a warm hug. What a surprise. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? I would have made something. Jason stiffened in her arms. I felt it too, the weight of the truth pressing down on us, turning her familiar embrace into something foreign. I pulled back, forcing a small smile. We just needed to talk. Mom frowned, sensing something was wrong. Is everything okay? Dad walked in from the kitchen. wiping his hands with a dish towel. "What's this about?" he asked, his deep voice steady as always. Jason and I exchanged a look. This was it. There was no easy way to say it. No way to soften the impact. Jason reached into his jacket and pulled out his folded DNA report, setting it down on the kitchen counter like it was some kind of weapon. "We took a DNA test," he said flatly, "and it says we're not related." Silence. Mom's smile faded. Dad didn't even blink. I watched them both closely, looking for anything, a flicker of confusion, shock, disbelief. Some kind of reaction that proved they were just as blindsided as we were. But they didn't look confused. They looked terrified. Mom's hand went to her mouth, her eyes wide. Dad's grip tightened on the dish towel, his entire body going rigid. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some lab error or mix-up. They knew. Jason's voice was sharp. "You knew, didn't you?" Mom blinked rapidly, like she was scrambling for words. "Sweetheart, don't lie to us." Jason's voice cracked, his hands clenched into fists. "Don't you dare lie to us right now." Dad exhaled, his shoulders slumping slightly. He wasn't going to lie, but whatever he was about to say, I wasn't ready for it. "We were going to tell you someday," he said quietly. The words hit me like a freight train. I took a step back, shaking my head. "Tell us what?" Jason was breathing heavily now, his entire body tense. "Tell us that we're not twins? That we're not even brothers? That our entire lives have been a lie?" Mom flinched like he had slapped her. "It's not like that," she whispered. Jason let out a bitter laugh. "Really? Then why don't you tell us what it is like?" "Because right now, I don't know what's real anymore." Dad ran a hand down his face, looking exhausted, like he had been carrying this secret for years, just waiting for the moment it would finally break him. "We should sit down," he said. Jason scoffed. "I don't want to sit down. I want the truth." Mom's hands were trembling as she reached for his. "We love you, Jason. Both of you. No matter what, that will never change." But it had already changed. Everything had. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "Just tell us," I whispered. "Please." Dad exhaled, looking between us, his expression full of something I couldn't quite place. Regret? Guilt? Then he said the words that shattered our world. "You're not actually brothers." The room spun. My breath caught in my throat. Jason went still, his hands gripping the edge of the counter like he needed to physically hold himself together. "What?" he whispered. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "You were both brought to us, but not at the same time." "Brought to us? Not at the same time?" Jason and I stared at them, unblinking, unmoving, because suddenly it wasn't just about DNA anymore. It was about something bigger, something we weren't ready for. And in that moment, I realized one terrifying truth. Our parents weren't just hiding a secret. They were hiding a lie so big, it could tear everything apart. Silence. The kind of silence that weighs on your chest like 100-pound stone, making it impossible to breathe. Jason and I just stood there, staring at our parents, the people who had raised us, loved us, lied to us. "You're not actually brothers." The words kept repeating in my head over and over, like a broken record. Jason was the first to move. His fist slammed down on the counter, the sharp crack echoing through the kitchen. Mom flinched. "What the hell does that even mean?" he demanded, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. Dad exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face like he wished he could erase this whole conversation. "You weren't born to the same parents," he said finally. "You were never biological twins. You were never even related." My pulse pounded in my ears. "Then why did you raise us like we were?" Mom's eyes were glossy with unshed tears. She looked at Dad, almost as if she was begging him to take this all back, to make it not real. But it was real. Too real. "Because we wanted you to be safe," she whispered. "Safe?" Jason's breath hitched, his whole body shaking now. "Safe from what?" Dad hesitated. And that pause, that damn pause, was worse than anything he could have said. Jason let out a hollow laugh, shaking his head. "Oh my God, you're still hiding something. You dropped this massive bomb on us, and you're still not telling us everything. We're telling you as much as we can, Mom pleaded. As much as you can? Jason snapped. What the hell does that mean? Are we in some kind of witness protection program or something? Neither of them answered. And that silence, that was all the answer we needed. Underscore 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 underscore. I felt like I was going to be sick. Every memory, every moment we had shared as kids, all of it felt fake now. Start from the beginning, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Tell us everything. Mom inhaled shakily, gripping Dad's hand like she needed something to keep her grounded. You were both brought to us, she started slowly. Not at the same time. Not from the same place. But for the same reason. Jason and I exchanged a look, our minds racing. What reason? Jason asked, his voice hoarse. Dad's jaw tensed. Because your real parents, both of yours, couldn't keep you. A chill ran down my spine. Couldn't or wouldn't? I asked. Dad's expression darkened. Couldn't. The way he said it, asterisk, asterisk, the weight in his voice, asterisk, asterisk, made my stomach twist. Why? Jason asked. Another long pause. Then Dad finally said it. Because they were running from something. Underscore 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 underscore. Jason sat down hard in a chair, rubbing his hands over his face. This is insane, he muttered. I felt like I was in a dream, a bad, warped version of my own life where nothing made sense anymore. Who were they? I asked. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. We don't know. Jason's head snapped up. Bullshit. It's the truth, Dad said firmly. We were never told who they were. Only that both of you needed to disappear. That you needed a family that would keep you hidden. Hidden from what? I whispered, dreading the answer. Dad's face was unreadable. From whoever was looking for you. The room froze. Jason and I locked eyes, the same terrifying thought crashing into both of us at once. This wasn't just about adoption. This wasn't about some family secret swept under the rug. This was something bigger. Something dangerous. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure if Jason and I really wanted the truth. Because what if knowing it put us in danger too? A heavy silence filled the room. The kind that makes your skin prickle, makes your stomach tighten, makes you realize that something is very, very wrong. Jason sat frozen, his fingers gripping the edges of the chair so tightly I thought they might snap. Hidden, he finally said, his voice hoarse. Hidden from who? Mom's hands were trembling now. She turned away, her chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. Dad's face, however, was like stone. We don't know, he said again, but this time there was something else in his voice. A hesitation. A lie. Jason must have heard it too because he shot up from his chair, knocking it back with a loud scrape. Stop lying, he shouted. You're still keeping something from us, and I swear to God, I am done playing games. Mom gasped at his outburst, but I didn't flinch, because he was right. There was still something they weren't telling us. Something huge. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay even. If we were hidden, then someone was looking for us. Dad's jaw tightened. I stepped closer. Who? Dad exhaled sharply, running a hand down his face. Then finally, he broke. We were warned, he said quietly, before we adopted you both. We were told that if anyone ever came asking about you, if we ever saw anything suspicious, we needed to disappear. A chill ran down my spine. Jason let out a sharp laugh, shaking his head. Disappear, he echoed. Like what? Run? Change names? Go into hiding? Dad didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence was enough. Jason stared at him, his chest rising and falling like he couldn't get enough air. So you've just been waiting for the day someone came knocking? His voice was filled with betrayal. You've just been sitting on this massive secret, hoping we never found out? We did what we had to, Mom said, her voice breaking. Jason turned to her, his eyes full of rage. What you had to? He repeated. You lied to us our whole damn lives. You let us believe we were twins, that we were normal. We wanted you to have a normal life. Mom's voice cracked. Jason let out a bitter laugh. Yeah. Well, guess what? It wasn't real. I swallowed the lump in my throat, my mind spinning. This was more than just a secret. This was a cover-up. And now, the question wasn't just who we really were. It was who had been looking for us. Underscore 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 underscore. Jason suddenly turned, grabbing his DNA report from the counter and waving it in the air. Then what about this? He snapped. If you don't know where we came from, then this should give us answers, right? Dad's face darkened. Destroy it. The words hit the air like a gunshot. Jason and I both froze. What? I whispered. Dad's eyes locked onto Jason's, his expression more serious than I had ever seen it. Get rid of the test. Right now. Burn it, shred it, I don't care. Just make sure no one ever sees it. Mom turned to him, horrified. David, they can't keep it. Dad barked. You don't understand what this could mean. Jason took a step back, his grip tightening on the paper. You're scaring the hell out of me right now. Dad pinched the bridge of his nose, exhaling sharply. You don't understand, he muttered. Then make us understand. I shot back. Another pause. Then Dad looked up, his face pale. If that test gets into the wrong hands, he said slowly, whoever was looking for you before, they'll find you now. Underscore 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 underscore. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. Jason opened his mouth, then closed it, his hands shaking. You're saying? He trailed off, like he couldn't even finish the sentence. Dad nodded. That DNA is out there now. And if the wrong people are still looking, this just gave them a trail straight to you. My pulse pounded. Jason's fingers twitched as he clutched his results, his breathing shallow. This isn't real, he whispered. But we both knew it was. Because the second we took that DNA test, we painted a target on our backs. And now, we had no idea who was coming for us. The weight of Dad's words sank into my chest like a stone. If the wrong people are still looking, this just gave them a trail straight to you. Jason and I sat there frozen. The air in the room had changed. It was no longer just tense. It was suffocating. You're kidding, Jason finally said, but it wasn't a question. It was a plea. Dad shook his head slowly. I wish I was. Jason exhaled sharply, dragging a hand through his hair. He looked like he wanted to run, like he needed to get out of here before the walls closed in. So what now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Dad hesitated. We need to act fast. Act fast. Jason scoffed. Act fast, how? You want us to change our names? Move to a different country? Burn our fingerprints off? What the hell are we supposed to do? Jason. No. His voice cracked. You drop this bomb on us and then tell us we're being hunted? That this DNA test just put a bullseye on our backs. Mom reached for him, but he yanked away. Don't, he muttered. Just don't. My hands were shaking. I didn't even realize I was gripping my own DNA results until I looked down and saw that the paper was crumpled in my fist. I thought back to when we first ordered the tests. The excitement, the jokes, the curiosity. That one stupid moment. That one stupid decision. And now we weren't just two guys trying to learn about our heritage. We were two people who had just unknowingly sent out a signal to someone. Someone we didn't know. Someone who might have been waiting for this moment. I swallowed hard. How do we even know if they're still looking? Dad and Mom exchanged a glance. A long, hesitant glance. And in that moment, I knew. They already had a reason to believe someone was. Oh my God, Jason whispered. You've seen something, haven't you? Mom looked like she was about to break down. Dad pressed his lips together, his fingers tightening into fists. Then he nodded. I felt my heartbeat slam against my ribs. Jason's face went pale. What did you see? Dad's voice was low, serious. It started about a month ago. I stiffened. That was before we even took the test. What started? I asked. Dad sighed. A black SUV, parked near the house. Different spots, but always close enough to watch. The first time, I thought it was a coincidence. But then it kept showing up. Same car. Same windows tinted too dark to see inside. My stomach dropped. And you didn't think to tell us? Jason snapped. We didn't know if it meant anything. Mom's voice was desperate. We thought maybe it was nothing. Maybe we were just being paranoid. Dad ran a hand down his face. But now, with that DNA test out there, we can't afford to take any chances. Jason let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. So what? We just wait for them to show up at our door. No, Dad said firmly. We get ahead of this. We find out who you really are before they do. A cold chill ran down my spine. How? I asked. Dad took a deep breath. I know someone who can help. Underscore 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 underscore. Jason and I sat in stunned silence as Dad pulled out his phone and started dialing. Who are you calling? Jason asked, his voice thick with suspicion. An old friend, Dad muttered. Someone who knows how to track things. People. Histories that don't want to be found. Mom clutched her hands together like she was trying to hold herself steady. David, are you sure about this? Dad didn't look up. We don't have a choice. The call rang once. Twice. Then a voice answered. A deep, gravelly voice. One that made Dad sit up straighter. I need a favor, Dad said, his tone sharp. And I need it now. A pause. Then the voice on the other end chuckled. Didn't think I'd be hearing from you again, David. Jason and I exchanged a look. This is different, Dad said, glancing at us. It's about my sons. A longer pause. Then, in a voice that sent pure ice down my spine, the man on the phone replied, You mean the ones that were never supposed to be found? Jason and I both froze. Dad's grip on the phone tightened. Mom's breath hitched. The blood drained from Jason's face. Because that was it. The confirmation we never wanted. Someone out there knew exactly who we were. And now they knew we were looking for answers. If you thought a simple DNA test was harmless, think again. Who are Jason and Aiden really? And more importantly, who's been watching them all this time? Stay tuned for the next part, because the truth is coming. Bell like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next.